We went through that boot camp over there.
Mm-hmm.
We was only there about 3 weeks. Then we went aboard the Oklahoma. I said Jamestown in that letter, but I think it was Jamestown. Could have been Yorktown. I believe it's Jamestown.
They're in Virginia?
Yeah. And on the James River, you know, and that's where we would come in off of our cruise and come in there, and we would go from Jamestown to, could have been Yorktown, damn far, no, I forgot. But then we'd go from there to Norfolk on Liberty, if you wanted to.
Yeah.
But everyone had about as much of Norfolk as we needed.
Okay, what's your full name?
Robert Joseph Graham.
Okay. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is April 28th, 1988. My name is Joe Todd, and this is an interview with Mr. Robert Joseph Graham in Amarillo, Texas.
That's a junior, see?
Junior.
That's put it on a, you know.
Okay.
Those days you used it.
Yeah. So where were you born?
Raton, New Mexico.
Raton, New Mexico.
Colfax County.
And when's your birthday?
October the 22nd.
October 22nd.
I was born October the 22nd, 1897.
1897. And who is your father?
I'm a junior.
Okay, Robert Graham Sr.
Yeah.
And your mother?
Her name was Mary Louise Smith. They were married at Raton.
Okay.
They come over there after, see, the old man, her father was in the Civil War, and he got, I think, they either a section or 3 sections or whatever it was that the government gave them after the Civil War was over, and they took theirs in Nebraska. And then, of course, those people, they didn't stay no place very long. There wasn't farmers, there wasn't nothing for that matter. But nevertheless, why, the old man was her father was a cabinet maker. And they just loaded up, sold it, whatever they had there, and they loaded up and come on down, and I guess is heading for California. But nevertheless, why, they came to Raton and stopped.
What was his name?
Charles Francis Smith.
Charles Francis Smith.
And he was a Civil War veteran.
What about your grandfather? Was he in the Civil War?
Nah, he was from Canada. My old man was born in Canada.
Oh, okay. Did you go through school at Raton?
I know I started school. Oh, let's see. Yeah, I started school. I went to first grade at Raton.
What was the name of the school up there?
I don't damn find it, just school. And then they had, of course, my old man worked for railroads, so he and his brother came there with a Santa Fe. And they, whenever they got ready to quit, they could get a job any place. There's only 3 things for them to do. Of course, you'd work in a coal mine out there, or they could work on the railroad, or they could work on the farm. There's about all 3 things that they could had to do, you know. Work in the grocery store, of course. But the old man from my first school was here.
When did the family move down here to Amarillo?
Oh, we came here in, I believe in 1906.
1906. Why did the family move down here?
You know, old man, hell, you get a job, and we worked for a railroad. Hell, they're boomers. They'd go any place, you know. Just, well, they didn't have no trouble. They'd ship their stuff to wherever they went. It didn't make no difference. If they go hire out on a new railroad, why, they'd send them transportation. The railroad is free, you know. They'd send them a transportation for all their goods, their house goods and so on and so forth. And they'd come on down here. The old man was working when we at Gary, Oklahoma, when he came here. But then he started in at Raton. Then he went to work at La Junta. Then he quit La Junta and went to Albuquerque and worked there. Then he went to Childers and worked over there. Then he went from Childers to Shawnee. Then he went from Shawnee to Gary, Oklahoma. And then he went from Gary, he came over here. He quit over there and then came over here.
Did the family move with him as he moved around?
Oh, eventually. They always, these old men, these boomers, you know, they went out and found a job and then they sent for their families.
What kind of work did he do for the
He was a machinist.
machinist?
Those days, you know, why, a good machinist was worth his weight. And you had machinists, boilermakers, and coppersmiths, and blacksmiths on a railroad. And, of course, your section, and your bridge bit monkey, and your operating employees. Your operating employees, they were the lowest paid bunch of the whole push then, see. And your these shop employees, why, they were pretty much in demand. Anybody could get out and fire an engine, shovel coal. And half of them couldn't read or write. Well, the whole push, that goes for everybody.
Did you do any work for the railroad?
Huh? Yeah.
What'd you do for?
I served apprenticeship on the Santa Fe at Canadian and Clovis. Between times, I started out in 1950. 1917, I joined the Navy. And then I come back, and I went back to work for the Santa Fe.
Yes. Why'd you join the Navy?
I was, I wanted to be, I could have been in the black gang, see. But I wanted to see the top side. I wanted to watch the fish and the ocean. And
what's a black gang? What's
black gang? That is the firemen and down the engine crew, don't you? In the engine rooms.
Oh, why'd you join the Navy?
Because I wanted to.
Why not the Army or the Marines?
Oh, yeah, well, I just wanted the Navy because I guess I'd traveled so much around, you know. And what I'd read about the Navy was that there was so many things to go and see. And there wasn't any reason for it. It wasn't because I was hungry. It wasn't because I liked the uniform. It was just because I could see the world, what I was trying. But I've been brought up that way, don't you see, to go every place and see everything and know everybody and so on and so forth. But
tell me about boot camp.
About what?
About boot camp. Where were you sent for boot camp?
The boot camp?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't have no trouble no place. Boot camp was all right with me. The only place we had, of course, in the spring, you know, still cold weather, we had those open air things, and just a big room had awnings to drop down and tie and keep the cold weather out, but you didn't have no fire or nothing, you know. And you had, I don't remember, yeah, you had decks to sleep on, and little built-in cribs that you slept on.
Now, you say that they didn't have room for you in boot camp the first time?
Yeah, and until, from May until about June. Sometime it was in, I don't remember whether it was the 1st of June, we left Grenada. That's where I lived, but I come over here and joined the Navy. But he and I joined the Navy here, and they sent us to Dallas. And then they sent us back to Canadian. And then they called us and sent us to, I can't think of that damn name.
What, Norfolk?
Norfolk, yeah.
What did you do in those 2 months when they didn't have room for you?
I worked went back to work and worked the same job I had.
Now, were you actually in the Navy during that period?
Yeah.
Okay.
That month and it couldn't have been more than a month, but it's that much. See.
So how'd you travel to Norfolk?
On a train.
Train? Was it a troop train?
No, on a passenger train. They give us a ticket out Dallas, from here they would give us a ticket from here to Dallas, from the Fort Worth and Denver. And from Dallas was MK&T to St. Louis, from Kansas, Missouri, Kansas, and Texas. And then we went from there from St. Louis on the C&O, Chesapeake, Ohio, to Norfolk.
Yeah.
And then we Dad please got me buzzed at boot camp. I can't think the name. But as far as boot camp's concerned, why you still had all the same numbers. I tell you, it was right at the end of the wooden ships and iron men, and you did what you were told. If you woke, whenever they told you, why, that's the way it was. But there was no trouble. All you had to do was do what you was told. But we went, I don't think it was more than 3 weeks in the boot camp. And we were on board.
Tell me about some experiences in boot camp. What type of training did they give you?
Oh, it was all parade, and marching and learning how to keep step and so on and so forth. And that is all there was to it. And eat 3 meals a day.
Well, did they give you good food in boot camp?
Well, it was substantial food. We had dried eggs. They put so many fresh eggs in with this dried egg, and so we scrambled eggs and so on and so forth. And we had, of course, beans. We had to learn to eat beans on Wednesday and Saturday for breakfast. But the food, there wasn't coffee and so on and so forth was all right. The food was substantial. There wasn't nothing fast about it. You was glad to get away and get uptown where you get something to eat. But other than that, why, I never had no trouble. See, I didn't have no trouble anyway.
Did you request the Oklahoma, or were you assigned to the Oklahoma?
I was assigned to the Oklahoma.
When you first saw the Oklahoma, what did you think?
Oh Lord, I thought that was the biggest thing I ever saw in one piece. And I thought it was the prettiest thing, Got aboard and that's all there was to it. It was just, you had a hammock and you had a ditty box. You know what a ditty box is.
What's that?
Keep all your small stuff in, like whatever you have, your soap and razor and so on and so forth. And there's a little square box about, I'd say maybe 10 by 12.
Was it attached to the wall, the floor, or where?
No, you'd put it in you could put it in top of your bag, sea bag, see.
Where were your quarters in the ship?
All I had was 2 hooks and a hammock.
And
it was on the berth deck.
Now, what's the berth deck?
That's the deck. See, you got the weather deck up here. Then the berth deck. Then you got this part here that covers up. See, that is the. Then here's a top side. That's on the top, and you can't get that. Anyway, we couldn't see it here. Don't think we could. But it's here below these guns. See, that berth deck runs in here below the guns.
So it's below the 14-inch guns.
Yeah, and then all that is undercover. See, but that's about maybe a quarter way from the part of the weather deck there.
Okay.
But the best I can remember, I forget all the names of the stuff. But then you had a. You said something about Holy Stone. I never did Holy Stone any because I was pretty lucky the first time that they come along, and I'd been around telephone companies and so on and so forth. And they asked if anybody could know what it was around about the telephone. See, I said, sure I could. So they put me as a telephone operator.
What type of telephone system did the Oklahoma have?
Just the same as these old country switchboards. You know, plug in and plug out and so on and so forth.
And where was that located? What part of the ship?
That's down on about the third deck below. I don't know what to call the surface, what the deck is. Right about the third deck. See,
Were you forward or aft or where?
well, about the center of the ship.
About midship.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I forgot midship. But he's on 4 hours on, 4 hours off. So that is. And you then you could sleep or whatever, you know. Well, naturally, why? It's usually what most of us did. You wash your own clothes and the buckets and so on, and took a bath or cleaned up, and whatever it was. And then you ate. But as I say, after you grow accustomed to the meals, they wasn't bad at all. Now some of them would say, I know one old boy was from Boston, and he was talking. He was in the plotting room, and of course the average education, you know, was from nothing. Wasn't anything to run across someone that couldn't read or write. They'd bring a letter to you and want you to read it to. From nothing to the 7th grade. See, this kid from Boston, well, he graduated from high school, and before World War I, you know, boys never graduated from high school. They got big enough to go to work. The old man put them to work so they could help him. But this old kid said, we talked about the food, and I said, well, there's nothing too wrong about the food. But it says if you're not accustomed to any better food than this, well, that's all right. That's you. It fits you, but it don't fit me. So that was the end of that argument. And another thing that I wanted to mention, of course, I'm ahead of the story. You asked me the questions, and this. I come off of my watch. It was could have been 8 o'clock. I had this. Well, everything was going fine. I thought, well, I go over and see what all the noise is about. And the kids, the old boys, would circle in this weather deck, see, where the mess cooks, where the mess tables were, where we ate. And they were all in there and all circled around. And me, I didn't have any better sense to go over there to look. And they had the gloves on, see. Well, I stood there and they put the gloves on. This old kid was standing around, and he's a big, tall, skinny kid. He was about 6 foot, 2 or 3 inches tall. And he maybe weigh 130 pounds, something like that. But he was a big kid, about 18, 19 years old. I walked over there and he looked. He says, he's trying to get him to fight some guy. See, he always had the gloves on, and he says, I'll fight him. There he was. See, and I'm 5 foot 4 inches tall. Weigh about 115 pounds. Well, wasn't anything to do, but of course I'd had some fights, don't you see? And I had boxing gloves and so on and so forth. But I wasn't no champion by any means. But there wasn't anything to do but put the gloves on. So I had enough sense to crowd him, don't you see, and keep going. And of course I could reach up and hit him under the chin and so on and so forth. Pretty soon after, maybe a round and a half, something like that, why, this old kid says, I've had enough, I've had enough. Well, I had too, but I wasn't going to say it. See? I was ready to quit probably before he was. But everybody enjoyed it, but he and I think.
What was your average day on the Oklahoma?
Well, we usually had bugle sound about 6, and then we, of course, cleaned up, and then we had breakfast. Then we went to muster. And then they had a kind of a teaching program there that they would tell us, like tie knots and all such as that. And we attended that maybe for an hour. Then they turned us loose and we could go whatever we wanted to do. If we had to go on watch, which sometime during that time period, sometime during the day I'd have to go on watch, but that was about the way it was in the afternoons, where you had them to yourself, see. But as far as the whole situation was concerned, well, there's enough people to take care of every bit, and nobody had too much to do. And of course, when we left Norfolk, we was in Norfolk Navy Yard for a short time before we went to Philadelphia, and they made some changes in a lot of the voice tubes, from running from here to there and so on and so forth. Then they're supposed to do some changing as far as the engine room was concerned. They were supposed to do some changes there. Now, I forget when we went in there or when we come out. But I know that we was there during all winter of 17. And then in the spring, well, we went back to Norfolk. And of course, that's the only Navy Yard to take our ship as far as what do you call it, dry dock is concerned. So of course they went back to Norfolk and painted the ship. And
did you help do that?
No. As I say, I'm I'm all in that. These other guys, they had the other deck force, who did that. But as I say, I was in fire control and so on and so forth. I had a good, easy job. But keep clean and keep my part of the quarters clean, and that's about all mine.
What do you do in fire control? What are your duties?
Well, this kid, another kid myself, by the name of Dunlap, he and I they would give us these, and we had a system, I forget what they call it, anyway, number box, don't you see? And he and I would run these numbers, where they give us the numbers, we'd put the numbers on this plate and run them up to then whatever we did there, well, that'd run up to the turret, where the guns were. And that's the way that they got their signals through us.
And was that the big guns?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, now what did these numbers do? What were the numbers used for?
Well, that's they'd take it'd give you the range, see, of fire range, and you got to pay attention to what you're doing. But it wasn't anything scientific about it, or educational, or anything else. It was something that probably.
Now, where were you located when you were sending these numbers to the turret?
Well, see, the plotting room was like here, and we was in a little space back in here. See.
Okay, but how far from the turret?
We were. That would be down on probably the third deck.
So you were down below the turret.
Yeah, we was down below. See.
Yeah.
And it could have, may have been two decks, what have you. But anyway, we were below the turrets.
Now, how'd you send the numbers up to the turret?
That's where it come through this kid and I with this box.
So you had a box?
The dials, yeah.
Yeah.
We had a dial. We had to put these numbers on this box, and it had to go just as fast as you could in order to get them on there.
So when you turned this dial, was there a dial up in the turret also?
So the dial, it would send the numbers, the dial, and send the range to the turret, don't you see?
Now the Oklahoma was a coal burner back then, wasn't it?
Was it what?
Coal burner?
No, it was oil burner. It was oil. It came out as oil burner.
It did. Okay.
See, the Nevada, Oklahoma, and then New Mexico were the first oil burners. Nevada and the Oklahoma were sister ships.
Okay.
And I don't know, the Oklahoma was kind of not a hard luck ship in a way she was, because they never, nothing we did was ever, a spectacular or anything like that, you know. And we got in the Navy Yard and stuck there. And Nevada and New Mexico and, well, the Utah and so on and so forth, they went across, you see.
How come the Oklahoma was stuck there?
Well, it was just one of those things that they had to put replacements and so on and so forth. We stayed there until, well, we went across there in the spring of 18, went across. We went to Ireland, and we in and out of there. As far as ever shooting at anything, I don't remember. They said they're going across, but they got a submarine, but I was below on watch when all that happened, to hear the guns and all that, but I didn't know what was going on. They said that they got a submarine if you go across over there. But if they did, that was another story. But Bantry Bay, Ireland is where we went.
What's the name of it?
Bantry Bay, B-A-N-T-E-R-Y. B-A-N-T-R-Y.
Is that in Ireland?
Bantry Bay, yeah. That's in the southwest part of Ireland. And we would, of course, have recreation, you know. We'd get out and walk around all over the place and so on and so forth. Then you could, I don't know how long, I don't know how many months we was over there, but nevertheless, why, every one of us got to go to London. And we was over there like the time. Each one of us got a trip to London. But we got, of course, you had to pay for it yourself, you know. And then we went to Brest. We stayed around. I don't remember how long we stayed around, but those that wanted to go ashore in Brest could go ashore. But how long we was there, I don't remember whether it was a week or 2 weeks or how long. But other than the trip to London and going to Ireland and so on, seeing what that was.
What did the Irish and English people think of the Americans?
The English, of course, they were subject to bragging, you know, but we never had no trouble with them. But they did while we were there. Why, the county of Cork, there were Cinnafins. The southwest of Ireland was Cinnafins. And I forget the name of the ship. I should remember it, but anyway, these fellows we'd come from, go to London, then they come into Cork, city of Cork. Of course, Bantry Bay was in the county of Cork, but the city of Cork, of course, they'd come back to county of Cork. We did that when some of the fellows got to go through Cork, you know, that way. But then they stopped it due to the fact that these fellows would come out, they brought some motor sailors. You know what a motor sailor is, you know.
What's that?
Well, it's a large boat. You can use sails on it, or it has a motor in it, see. But they came to, 3 or 4 of those motor sailors came up to the dock in Cork. And these Irishmen let them get up on top of on the dock, see, on the surface of the dock. And then they come in a crowd and they shoved them off. And there's, I don't know how many of them drowned, how many American sailors were drowned there, see. But they were objected to all of it.
Why? What was the objection?
Well, they were Cinnafins. They didn't want to fight. But, you know, it's the same way they are over there now. That's what this whole thing is, that, as far as the northern part of Ireland, you see. The northern part of Ireland was supposed to be Protestant. And then the southwest part of Ireland was Catholic. Well, that's what they objected for us fighting for England, don't you see? Pulling theirs. thing out of the fire. But then they wouldn't let us go back into Corner Court. And some of our fellows, one big old boy named Slim Mason, oh, he's a real tough boy. And they had fists like hams. And he come back to the board and they'd tore up a restaurant over there in the court. After all this happened, that was the last one which went over there. And talk about beat up. Those old boys that was on our ship went. Boy, they come back, they were really skinned up, boy. Whew. Old Slim would say, he's from West Virginia. He'd say, I said, get out of my way. And boy, they wouldn't do it. But the average one, he was a boatswain. The average one of those old boys, well, all right. I never had no trouble, as I say. And the officers was, you couldn't beat them, as far as I am concerned. Others too. Maybe some of them didn't like them, but they were good. We got a mockingbird out there. We feed them and they come up here and eat. Eat on the mailbox. But on the average, why, the fellows were ours. Shipmates was ours.
What rank did you have in the Oklahoma?
I was a seaman. I went in, of course, I didn't ship admirals then, you know. He was lucky with the mob, and anyone was lucky to make a first class. Like a first class petty officer, see. Because they just didn't work out that way. Then myself and dozens others, just the same way. They come out of there as a first class seaman, a first class fireman.
Is that what rank you had, first class?
Right, first class, yeah.
First class seaman?
Seaman.
Seaman first class.
Went in there as a seaman, apprentice seaman. See? He shipped in there as apprentice seaman, then of course second class seaman, then first class seaman. But
did the Oklahoma make any maneuvers during the war, during World War I?
well, we did after we come out of before we went into the Navy Yard at Philadelphia. We'd pick up this convoy, don't you see? And we'd go so far across there. I don't know how far. We had be 30 or 40 ships all told. Forget what they call those. Anyway, it'd be you know, little torpedo boats. When you get to be 90 years old. But anyway, they were torpedo boats. We'd have 15 or 20, maybe 25 torpedo boats. Then there'd be the 4 super dreads, and we would come along. There'd be 2 up in the front and 2 in the back of super dreads. But these torpedo boats would circle around. Of course, they'd go faster than the transport ship with the soldiers on them, and then we had one time we took a bunch of food stuff over there, meats and stuff like that, you know. And we would go about halfway across. Then these other ships would meet us going over there. And they'd go pick them up, whatever they were. They would pick them up and take them on the rest of the way. The same way as the torpedo boats. They would.
Tell me about escorting President Wilson back in the States?
I was gone. I was off of there then. See. I got up there. We came back to New York, and they had passed a law that if you had employment, and you could go back to your employment, that you could get an honorable discharge. See. And of course, there were so many of us, they was glad to get rid of us, you know. But they wanted to cut us down. I cut them down as much as they could.
So when did you leave the Oklahoma?
Huh?
When did you leave the Oklahoma?
I left the Oklahoma. Well, let's see, paid off April the 23rd, 1919. And that was at Algiers. There was about 20 of us, see, that they let out on the strength of that. And of that bill. We went from New York to Algiers. There was a naval station there. I think there still is, maybe, I don't know. Louisiana, and that's out in New Orleans, just that across the river. But anyway, there was about 20 of us, and it was from Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. And we were all paid off at the same time.
There in New Orleans? There at New Orleans?
At Algiers Station,
Okay.
naval station. But that's, of course, in New Orleans. That's the end of mine.
Okay. Where was your station during general quarters?
General quarters in the plotting room.
Okay, you were there for the fire control.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where were your quarters during abandoned ship?
Well, I say, this is the nearest place you can get off. They just had us there where, but
did the Oklahoma have any collisions while you were on board?
No.
Of the ships? Okay. What's your fondest memory of the Oklahoma?
Getting out.
Getting on?
Getting out.
Getting out.
Well, here's where we were then, you know. We were free. You know, we'd come up in a way that we had never been in any confinement of any way, and so on and so forth. And well, probably most of us were all country boys, and lived in little old towns that the most water we ever saw when it rained. But when I think about this, I guess seeing something happen to happen to somebody else, maybe that's about it. You know, whether it didn't happen to you, but it happened to somebody that you knew and you was glad for them. That's about the only thing that I know. I didn't.
Ever hit any big storms while you're on the Oklahoma?
One, that is coming back across.
Tell me about that. What happened?
Oh well, but nothing happened to us, you know. But everything else blowed down, and there was mass blowed over the smaller ships and so on and so forth, you know. And I had to go for Chesapeake Bay, of course. Of course, that'd be in 1918, but would be in. We were in Battleship Bay and from the time we got over there until after, it was 1919 when we left, you see. Because we got over there in 1918. And it was November 1918 when the armistice was signed.
What did you do in Armistice Day?
We was aboard ship.
Was it a big celebration?
No. This is the same old day. Somebody said the war's over, armistice is on. That's all there was to it. You was all there in the bay, that ice, you know, in the bay. There wasn't nothing. It just everybody talked about it, you know.
Ever seen any Germans?
Nah, we never did. I never saw a German. Saw them there in England, you know, and they go by a truckload. They had them there, and they'd take them from one place to the other, doing street work or anything they get them to do. And we'd look at those old boys, and as they went by on the trucks in London there, why, one of them hollered and said, "Lick mine Archlote." You know what that is? kiss my ass.
What did you do in London?
Well, we first thing, no kid myself. He was from someplace in Arkansas. Named Powell. He and I went to London, and we went to the YMCA, and they give us the YMCA, and they gave us a place to stay, and we had to go way out and get on a van and go clear out into where way back out there, and we slept. He and I stayed this home, and we ate breakfast there in an old straw mattress. You hear it? You smell that straw clear after you got out from there. But we stayed over there about, I guess, a week. Back and forth, running around town. Went to Trafalgar Square and so on and so forth. And saw the things at Buckingham Palace, and the St. Paul's Cathedral, and so on and so forth. But I do remember this. Of course, the YMCA wouldn't give you nothing. And the KC, they had something similar to that, a kind of a help little club there. It wasn't a little one, but they took care of quite a number of old boys. Everything they did for you, they did for nothing. And
you said the KC, that's Knights of Columbus?
Yeah. And then the Australians and the New Zealanders, boy, everything you got from them was free. But everything the YMCA you got from them was paid for. The Salvation Army was free, But this YMCA, there no kids stayed over there. And of course he should have been careful off the Oklahoma. And he was from Oklahoma. And he stayed at the YMCA when he first went up as the best dressed those days, Well, he ended up with a pair of those English boots. He got his shoes and got his blues. And there he was in his shorts. And that's all he had. They took everything he had. They left. They did leave him a pair of those old brogues that the English wear with big buckles on them, see. And one buckle on each shoe, of course. So, I don't know how he got over to YMCA wouldn't do nothing for him. And I don't know how he got over to KC's, but he got over to KC's or somewhere. Somebody may have brought him over there. Brought the things to him. We saw him on the street as we was getting ready to come back to the ship. And he told us his story, that the YMCA wouldn't give him anything. He had a coat and an old odd pair of pants and an old beat-up hat and those old brogue shoes that the Englishman had left him, see. But
did he have to buy a new uniform?
I suppose he did. You had to buy your clothes then,
Did you have a tailored uniform? Did you?
Yeah, what?
Did you tailor your uniform?
No, I bought a tailor-made uniform, see. But the others, they were furnished to me. I kept them. See, the 2 years I was in there, I wore the stuff that they gave me when I got in there. But if you had to have anything while you're in there, that 4 years, you had to pay for it. See.
What was on top of those cage masks?
But what?
What was on top of the mask, those cage masks?
Just a crow's roost is all. Wasn't nothing up on top of it.
You ever go up there?
Mm-hmm.
What do you do up there?
They just stood there and watched, looked for submarines. That's all.
Do you know why they took the cage mask off and put the tripod mask on?
No. They might have done that while we were in the Navy Yard. I don't know, but I doubt it.
Yeah, that was done in '29, I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I think all they did did something about the engines and then something about the voice tubes. They either run voice tubes clear on up to the mast or what have you, see. And
How long did it take to get from your quarters to your battle station when they stand in general quarters?
Oh, 5 minutes.
5 minutes. On December 7th, when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, and you heard the Oklahoma had been sunk, what was your reaction?
I wasn't there.
No, but when you heard about it, what was your
Oh,
reaction?
you know, I wanted to get back in there. I wanted to get back in there when the United States, but see, your age then, and I could have got into the railroad battalion, but I had to have special permissions.
Did you have, what was your reaction when you heard the Oklahoma had been sunk?
Oh, I was sorry for it. It was my ship, you know. The idea is that when you left there, you left something that you really was in love with, and some of the best old boys that you ever knew. And they would have done anything for you, and you'd have done anything for those, the ones that that you knew and associated with. But you'd help anybody that, as long as they had a uniform on, well, you'd help them. But of course, it's like everything else. A year after you get out of there, why, you're on your own.
Yeah. What division were you in?
I was in, fire control division. Yeah. But my first division was the 5th Division. But I was only in there, not too long, just long enough to get it straightened out.
Whenever they fired those big guns, did you have to go below deck when they fired the big guns?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What was that reason? Why?
Huh?
What was the reason?
Well, because you had to go below deck. You see, that's where we were. That's where my battle station was.
Okay. Do you have any photographs of the Oklahoma?
Huh?
Do you have any photographs of the Oklahoma?
No.
You ever get anything off the Oklahoma?
Never. No. They. Let's see. I mean, I don't know if I got anything here. I don't know. Man. That close enough? For...
Yeah. And you're on the left holding the box.
Yeah. Big Newtons.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, just hold that right there. Okay, thank you.
December the 24th. Let's see. That's 41 now. Oh, Mr. Secretary. This, see, they gave you this. These, due to the fact there were so many people come along and or some kind or other's question about it. Mm-hmm. And you're entitled to, like, as much as, I don't know how many this say, where one, if he's over there 6 months, why they gave you 2.
Yeah.
You can read it. I don't know whether 6 months or what it was.
Okay.
Some reason they give you that. That's the captain there. He at McVeigh.
Yeah.
He took Admiral Rogers. Admiral Rogers is one of the best old guys that.
Did you know him?
Yes, sir, boy.
Tell me about Admiral Rogers.
Oh, he was just a fine, good. Well, he's an enlisted man's admiral, enlisted man's officer. And when, as I tell you, when they tore up this restaurant over there, why, it was our ship, our crew, don't you see? And he took up a collection and sent it over there to the mayor, you see.
Where was that?
That was in Battery Bay, but they tore up this restaurant in Cork. county and Cork, city of Cork, see, and they all got in a fight over there with the Irishmen, you know, and before they got through, why they they tore this restaurant up when we took up a collection, and everybody, I forget now how much, of course, you know, buck of the buck then, because the average, well, in first class seaman, he made $38.50 a month, and that was third class fireman. If third, that is a first class fireman, and so on and so forth was about the same, about the same way.
What salary did you make when you were Oklahoma?
$38.50.
$38.50.
Went in there at I believe 16 something. I forget now, 17 maybe. Then you second class, why 22 or 3. But we had the Annapolis officers. You didn't have no trouble with them; they were all right. But the shave tails, you know, these 30-day wonders that they put out, correspondence school. Well, now they give you a little trouble. But on the average, why, we never had but one of those.
Who was your division officer in Fire Control Division?
Lieutenant Commander Haley.
Haley,
yeah. And let's see, another old boy, and he was a dandy boy, great big old tall guy from Harvard. He was the best old boy. He was always doing something for some guys. You know, something happened to something, why someone, and he'd ask them if they need any money, and so on and so forth. And had a way of getting home, you know, so that's, of course, we was in the aboard, you know, in the Navy Yard then, and you go, and of course, as long as we was over here, what, you could do the same thing, you know. But I know several of them that, gee, he was a nice guy. But old Rogers, boy, everybody liked him. A lot of them, 2 or 3 of them got some girls pregnant. They married, boy.
They were.
You're not kidding.
Did Rogers make a marry him?
You're darn right.
What about McVeigh? What kind of...
Oh, he was kind of high, you know. He's quite a... He was a captain, don't kid yourself, but I guess he's admiral, I don't know.
No, I think he was just captain.
Captain, yeah. Oh, he was, you know, on cloud 9 or something.
You ever see the Silver Service off the Oklahoma?
The what?
The Silver Service the captain had?
No, I never did see it.
Yeah, let me see.
But
that's the punch bowl off the Oklahoma.
Yeah.
That's part of it.
I remember when they were talking about, you know, with the Oklahoma.
Yeah.
But
we have it on display in the museum now.
Yeah.
That whole service.
I don't know whether the World War I gave you that. No, the World War II gave you that.
No, that was given to the ship in 1917.
1917?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
By the state of Oklahoma.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And another thing the state of Oklahoma did, of course, 85% of it didn't fit, and that was make socks and sweaters.
They did.
Yeah, those women.
Yeah.
Yeah, they knitted sweaters and socks and so on. It was, you know, the...
Oh, they made it.
Oh, they made it wool.
Wool?
Yeah. But you know, I guess there's a lot of sheep around in there then. There was around in here, you know, every place around. But whether they got that there, but I know. And on Christmas, we always got something. I don't remember what from women in Oklahoma. whether it's just Oklahoma City or whether it's throughout the state.
What they give you, do you
I don't remember. Something, you know, maybe it's a Bible or maybe it's something that they gave us, you know, a testament.
Any other specific incidents that happened on the Oklahoma?
Well, I'll tell you, just before I got off of there, why, this happened to me. And this old boy, he was worked in the commissary, that is in the canteen. Great big old fat boy. And, oh, he was hanging out with the yeomans and ordinary seamen or ordinary sailors. He didn't have too much to do with them. I don't remember what his name was. But he would go in the chaplain's office and get a telephone call. And he'd answer the phone in there, and this day in particular, why, I was unlucky enough to be there. And he called from the chaplain's office and wanted to talk to the chaplain. But it's captaincy, but I was calling from the chaplain's office. And so I said, say that again. He said, I want to speak to the captain. Sounded to me like, and I thought it was the chaplain. Of course, that's the first phone call that I heard. I imagine the captain never got on the phone, for that matter. That was old McVeigh. So I said, I could give him captain. And, well, I didn't even listen to it. I just went on to something else, you know, the other phone. There wasn't nothing to get a call from this chief petty officer to the from one turret to the other, from the plotting room to the turret or what have you. And I went on about my business watching the board. Pretty soon the phone rang from the chaplain's office, and he said, Operator, you gave me the captain. I wanted the chaplain. I said, hell, you're in the chaplain's office. I said, I thought you said captain. I thought you were the chaplain. Oh, I'm in bad, said blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, you just have to get out of it. That's all I can tell you. That's the only, he's the only one, enlisted man I know of got to talk to the skipper.
Where were the officers' quarters in the ship?
Oh, they were about second deck. It wasn't the first. It wasn't the second. Yeah, it'd be about the second deck.
Yeah.
Third deck, maybe.
Yeah. Do you remember? Did the crew ever line up for photographs like that? Do you remember doing that?
Could have happened, but I don't remember. I sure don't remember.
Anything else about the Oklahoma? You can think of?
Huh?
Anything else about the Oklahoma?
Yeah, that's about all I know.
Yeah. So when did you get your discharge?
April the 23rd, 1919.
So when you were paid off, you got your discharge?
Yeah. No, I didn't get the discharge. I got the discharge, maybe a couple of months later. Yeah.
And you returned to Amarillo?
Yeah. I turned to Canadian.
Canadian. Back to the railroad?
Yeah.
And you worked for the railroad then? And how long did you work for them?
Oh, pooh, I worked for the railroad all my life. I got out of there and off the I worked for 15 railroads. Get a job any place. You know.
What was the main duty you did with the railroad?
Oh, pooh, I've done everything. Run an engine. And, run a roundhouse. Foreman. A machinist, but trade that served my apprenticeship on a Santa Fe in started in 1915, end up in 1921. Then when I got out of my time, I quit. Went over to Raton, went to work for Santa again, and so on and so forth, here and there and all.
What is the difference between the steam engine and the diesel engine?
Oh, there's many things. See, you have to have water or coal or oil, and plenty of it. And then everything you have is, you have to have a heavier rail. You say, like a steam engine will beat up a rail, you know, and you have to have a heavy rail for that, where a diesel engine is light, and you don't have to have a coal chute. You don't have to have a place to take oil. If they'll go every, say, 100, 200 miles before you have to have fuel, and you just that much cheaper to run. And you don't see now. You have to have a water station. You have to have a coal station. And of course now they would have a coal station from after they got to building larger locomotives, steam locomotives. Well, they'd go 100 miles, and that's about as far as they'd go. See, and the next thing you know, they get the bigger engine. They'd go 200 miles. And that's as far as they try to make them go. That is, without refueling and working on them, see.
How many horsepower were those engines developed, those steam engines?
Gosh, Lord, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know.
And when you ran what are your duties in a roundhouse, when you run a roundhouse?
My duties?
Yeah.
Well, I made whatever is necessary to make on a machine, you see. If it's a bushing, if it's a bolt or whatever, why, you made it on the lathe. You made it on a planer, of course.
That was in the roundhouse?
Yeah. And whether the headlight, the electricity, or anything, electrical, what have you had to be capable of doing where I'd been, see. Doing whether it was electrical or whether it was run the machine or whether it was replacing whatever it was, whatever.
How many men on the engine of a steam engine? How many crew members?
Well, there's two are engineer and a fireman. That's all there is when they're on the road, you know. But now, why, there's just a conductor and one brakeman, and there's 4 people where there used to be 5. See?
Well, I think we have a good interview about the Oklahoma.
I didn't know I could talk to you know.
When anyone mentions the Oklahoma, what do you think of?
Oh, it's always got like home, you know. That's what you never. Guy say, let's go home. You'd be out someplace, you know. Get to the lake. We better go home. You know?
Of course, you know it sunk again, being towed back.
Huh?
You know it sunk. It's in mid-Pacific now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can't you stay aboard there 2 years, you know, approximately 2 years. And most every meal you ate. Of course, when you get away in Philadelphia, first thing you do is make for a restaurant. In those days, you know, a man in uniform couldn't buy a drink. Yeah. Now, one Christmas Eve, the Christmas Eve was in 1970. Why, I was standing on a corner waiting for either somebody to pick me up or something, I forget. And the saloon was right over here, you know. No boy shoved a quart of whiskey in my arm, you know, so squeeze that tight. He took off, you see. And that, you know, a lot of things like that.
So you take it back to the ship?
Heck, no, you couldn't go aboard with it.
What'd you do with it?
Well, every time I turned around, we'd see somebody, why, we'd take a drink. Think about it. This Salvation Army, this is a true story. This see, the Salvation Army came to the United States in 1904. Or I mean in 1894. Well, this happened in around 1904, along in there, 6, 7. But then they got scattered up and around the Pacific and the all up and down the Atlantic, and of course the around the dry docks and so on and so forth. And the saloon people controlled the city governments then, as you know, that whether it was in Oklahoma or wherever it was, why they all they had to do was go to the phone and call the cops, and they were there. Anyway, why this happened in Seattle, and every time the Salvation Army would get set, why they would call the cops and they'd run them off, don't you see? And they call this old girl Dry Dock Annie. She'd get her paint her nose occasionally, and when she did, she was really drunk. The Salvation Army was out in front of the saloon doing their stuff. They thought it'd be a good joke on the Salvation Army to take old Dry Dock Annie out, turn her over to him, and let her see if they could straighten her, or just let them have her. See? And then what she would do when she awakened. So on it went. Eventually, she come along, and they gave her a few drinks. She got a little drunker and so on and so forth. They took her out and asked the Salvation Army to take her. So they put her in their wagon, and away they went. And about 3 weeks later, why, Annie awakened. She cleaned up and straightened up. Boy, they'd fixed her hair and everything else, and she looked like a new person. And she said, "Say, just where the hell am I?" They told her, she said, "You're in the Salvation Army. You're down here at our quarters and all." Said, "Don't you feel better?" She said, "Hell no." Said, "You better get me the hell out of here." Said, "If them bastards down on the dock fight I've been associating with you bastards, my name won't be worth a plug nickel." I wouldn't feed these mockingbirds. Wait a minute.
Okay.
Come.
Yeah.
The darn sparrows, they come in and
What did you think when they were towing the Oklahoma back to the States and it sunk again in mid-Pacific?
well, as I say, she's hard luck.
Well, you know they were going to scrap the ship and milk it down.
Yeah, it's hard luck, see. And I was glad they did it, you know. Because, well, she meant something to most everybody's on her. It wouldn't make any difference whether, I guess if you owned a rowboat, it'd be the same thing, but...
Okay, well, Mr. Graham, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, you can.